Hey, everybody. So they told me I only have 15 minutes, so I got to do this super, super quick, right? So first of all, my name is Cecil Phillip. I'm a developer advocate at Stripe. We come to conferences and we work with customers, and what we try to do is give folks advice about how they could properly build their integrations with payment processing, as you can imagine. So what I want to do in these next 15 minutes is I want to answer one of the questions that our customers always have. And that question is, well, after I've accept payment, after our customer has given us their money, like what do we do now? Like what happens after, right? And how do we kind of model our payment processing workflow to kind of handle like some of the different scenarios that could happen in that space? So let's kind of go through that really quickly. But before we do that, obviously let's talk a little bit about Stripe, in case you don't know what Stripe is or you're not familiar with the service. So Stripe essentially is, we're a payment processor. We allow you to, by our APIs, to collect money inside of your applications. Right, and then, for a lot of folks, they think Stripe is actually a really amazing experience. According to this guy, apparently it's a really good thing. I'm lying, he didn't say that, I said that. And I just said it just now, I'm lying. But again, Stripe is a really good experience for you to start collecting, processing payments inside of your applications. Now, we cover a variety of different scenarios. So one of the scenarios, you can imagine if you have like a consultancy and you have to generate invoices and pay different types of folks, like we can do all of that for you. Like we'll email, when we'll generate the PDFs, we have online hosted invoices, you can do that. And again, this all happens via API. We also have a product called Stripe Checkout. If folks have never heard about it, it's like our hosted payment form. So what we do is we kind of take on the burden of security and compliance, talking about PCI and all of these types of things. And essentially, like, we create this payment form that you could use either on your mobile applications or on your web applications. And again, we kind of control a lot of that for you. You just don't have to worry about it, right? It's customizable, obviously, and you can kind of tweak it to have your branding colors and all that kind of fun stuff in it. But then also, too, it's also very like location aware. So for instance, like this one is hosted in an Android device. So like it'll show you like a Google Pay. If it was on a Safari phone or something like that, like it would show you like Apple Pay instead, right? We support different payment methods, different locales, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Like that's essentially like what we do at Stripe. And then also too, we have support for hardware. So for folks that want to plug into your POS system, your point of sale system, we have this thing called Stripe Terminal. And what we could do is actually have hardware, and you could walk around, you could collect payments, and you could scan cards and things of that nature whenever you're ready to collect your payments as well. So that's essentially what Stripe does. Now, what happens after that, right? Now, we, again, are very developer friendly. And so everything that happens inside of your Stripe account, like we fire off a variety of different events, right? So was the customer created? Was the payment successful or not? Did the checkout happen or not? Did you add new products or not? Like everything that happens, we fire off a collection of webhooks, right? All depending on what's going on in your system. And so these webhooks are important because they allow you to figure out, what stage am I in the actual process? And then what's some of the things that I could do next, right? Now, really quickly, this is kind of what our webhook flow kind of looks like. So as an example, if you wanted to create an invoice, right? This is what it would look like. You make a call to our API endpoint, right? And you would get like an invoice created, webhook would fire. And then at some point, the customer is going to pay that invoice, and then we're going to get another webhook event that's going to say, hey, well, the customer has now paid that invoice as well, right? And then in your backend somewhere, on your serverless function or, in one of your backend APIs, you'll run some type of process that says, okay, this customer has paid the invoice, and we could go ahead and do whatever else we need to do. Whether it's, issue more consultants to them, or, ship the packaging, or send them a thank you email, or whatever the case is, right? Like, we can kick off that workflow after those events have fired. Now, a lot of folks think, oh, okay, well, that's easy, right? Like, I just set up an HTTP endpoint, and I receive a webhook, and then that's it, right? All's good with the world. Well, the fact of the matter is, like, a lot more goes into actually handling your webhooks. As you can see, we send a lot of data whenever your webhooks come in, right? So you can know like the IDs, the accounts, the numbers, and all these different types of things. But then also too, our webhooks also kind of expect you to respond to us really quickly. So if you don't respond to our webhooks in a couple of seconds or so, we're going to keep sending it over and over and over again. Because we're going to say, okay, well, maybe there was like a transient failure. I'm going to try and send it to you again. And the last thing that you want to do is be running your workflows multiple times. So one of the things that we tell folks to do is, well, if you have to kick off workflow, try and respond quickly, and then now try and have like some type of asynchronous messaging on the back end using queues or using something else that you could use to start processing some of that type of work, right? So again, here's an example of what like those webhook events look like and examples of what some of them are, right? Like so, char succeeded, customer created, disputes created, so on and so forth. Now you can create webhooks in a couple of different ways. You can create it inside of the dashboard, dashboard.stripe.com, or you can even have them set up inside of your application. And we can show you what that looks like in a second. Now, let's talk about like what some of the architecture for actually putting some of this stuff together actually looks like. So here you can see on the left side, right, like we have Stripe, and then again, we're going to be sending webhooks back and forth. Now, inside of your AWS instance, you can set it up such that, for instance, you can send this to like an Elastic Beanstalk instance, or you can set it to a Lambda function, or you can set it to an SNS topic, or whatever the thing is for your backend that you're going to send that to. And then now we can have the ability to like spread that out to like a couple of different things, right? Like whatever is going to be listening and processing that. But the important part here is that like I want to be able to drop the message off, return to my customer, and then let my backend do the work that it's going to do, right? Like we don't want to like lock up, what's happening with that customer until all of our work gets processed. And again, we could do this with our mobile applications too. It all works in the same way. So really quickly, let's take a look at a quick demo, and I can show you an example of what some of the stuff looks like. So this is a really simple app, right? Like, so, I have a storefront, and I'm, selling events. Like, you could come here, and you could buy tickets if you want. Now, inside of here, what you'll see is, I'm going to click on this checkout button super quick, right? And I am going to pay for some tickets. Now, as you can see, it's showing me the Google Pay option because I'm inside of a Chrome browser. If I was not, it would, send me to like Apple Pay or something like that. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in this fake credit card. This is not a real credit card. Please don't, try and spend money on it. If you do and you are able to buy anything, please feel free to send me something. I would really love if you all send me some cool stuff. Really appreciate it. But I'm just going to fill out this form. I'm just going to put in some simple stuff inside of here really quick. And now, what we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and hit pay. Right. Now, like I said, what's going to happen is that the payment processing is going to happen in our Stripe backend. And then now it's going to go and it's going to send me a webhook into my application. But the way that my application is set up right now is that I have an SQS queue set up. So the message is going to go into my queue, and then at some point my Lambda function is going to pick it up and it's going to start doing some work. Right? So let's head over to wrong computer. Let's head over to payment processor. You can see what this kind of looks like really quickly. So again, like this is just a simple example of one of the ways that you can do this. Well, what we're looking at here is that I have like my workflow webhook processor is a Lambda function, and then I have my queue here that's receiving those messages, right? And then if we want to, we can kind of head over to, you can see I've invoked this a couple of times since before we came here. But then if you wanted to as well, like I can head over to like CloudWatch, and I can take a look at my logs, and you can see like, maybe that's a little bit small, or I can make it a little bit bigger. But you can see at some point in here, I'm starting and I'm processing messages, and I'm like, initiating my fulfillment workflow, right? If you think about fulfillment, you think, okay, well now I'm going to engage shipping, I'm going to ship it out, I'm going to email my customer, I'm going to do whatever steps I need to do after the fact, right? I'm going to increment my inventory and so on and so forth, right? So really quickly, as an example of one of the ways that you could do that fulfillment inside of Stripe. Okay, I got like 5 minutes. All right, let's talk about it real quick. Right, so that's essentially one of the things that we could do in terms of fulfilling your payment processing workflow, and also being able to handle it in a very serverless way. Now, one of the other things we have when it comes to Stripe is that we have this product called Stripe Data Pipeline. And it has a really cool integration that allows you to export all of your information from Stripe and run really rich reporting on it. So if you wanted to run reports and write queries to kind of find out, well, what's exactly happening inside of my application? What are some of the things that my customers are doing? What's happening with my data? So we can do that with Stripe Data Pipeline. And it actually plugs in really well with Amazon AWS Redshift. So if any of you all are Redshift customers, you could use this service, and you can plug it in with your Stripe integration. And then now you'll be able to put those things together. There you go. Now, moving on super quick, So I know that was really quick, and I didn't have a lot of time. But if you are interested in learning about any of the things that I spoke about, feel free to check out any of the links that are here. We're also in the booth at the back right corner, in the startup area, I believe. And if you all have any questions, I got a couple of minutes if you want to ask any questions. If not, I'll see you all hanging around the conference. Questions? No? Are we good? All right, well, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.